down and look at partnerships at more of a local level in terms of both education and the private sector. So Jan, can you talk a little bit about some of the exciting projects that you have where I think they can really serve as some, I guess we use the term lighthouse, for the kinds of new thinking and new partnerships that you're bringing together in Ohio, and share that with us.
I guess this morning we've heard a lot of what I would describe as disruptive innovation. Not going by mainstream, not using our institutions and our structures in the way that even they were meant to. So in some ways even using them as contraptions, which is a good word for what we're thinking about. So if disruption's important because it gets us all to be thinking about what's next and innovation, then the structures that we have in place need to be looked at the foundation and at ties. What we think about partnerships, and we think that we have partnerships in this country in which it's outreach, and partnership is a term that's being used instead of really outreach. And in the end, there are a series of programs that, as you've said, can disappear because there's no funding or there's some bureaucrat somewhere that doesn't think that this is something that's viable. So what if we do this differently? Suppose we say that the schoolhouse, the way Ben Franklin conceived of it, is not serving our youngsters. That schoolhouse in the 21st century, gone. What becomes the entity then that helps to educate our youngsters? And what we think is it's all of us. It's the community at large. It's a collaboration amongst everybody who touches youngsters that actually then becomes responsible. Well, what is it that they engage in then to learn about? Well, why won't we ask them? We know the kind of skills and we know what we'd like to see them engage in, but what's the mechanism in order to engage them? And if you ask the kids, and we do, we go out there and we ask, and the kids come back basically with two things that they want to learn. They think we've mucked up the planet, and it's time that we step aside and they take over energy and sustainability. Number one on the hit list. The second is they know that their neighborhoods are ill. They know that their families are at risk. They want to be better at understanding what it means, what health and wellness means, and to solve problems. So if we no longer have our schoolhouse, and that's what we want to drive with, and it makes sense because it back maps to what economic vitality and development is needed in the country, then what does the school look like? It looks like MC Squared STEM High School in Cleveland, Ohio. It is located on the GE Neela Park campus. GE's research campus in Cleveland is where Thomas Edison commercialized lighting. So it's been there a while. GE invited the school district, Cleveland Metropolitan School District, which is always in some kind of trouble of some nature. And Cleveland is the second poorest city in our country right now. Invited them to come onto campus and to see what school would look like when outreach from business is not outreach any longer. But it's a seamlessness with educating youngsters. So the 300 researchers there and the teaching core are inseparable. So it's not a matter of taking kids on buses to go for internships and all of that. The problems that the kids are solving in their 9th grade class are real problems that GE is working on as well. So, and I know there's not a lot of time and I could go into greater detail. The national labs are involved, and not through necessarily just programming, but because of their interest in understanding where the workforce is going to be for the future. They have sponsored through Battelle Metro School. That's also a good website to go to. The Metro School is involved in the national labs. The new Tri-Cities High School in Richland, Washington is on the campus with PNNL, which is the Pacific National Labs. So there's every possibility that our vision for businesses, quote, partnership, is actually the new construction of the school of the schoolhouse.
Great. Yeah, that's just a really, really exciting project. And I encourage everyone to check out the website or come find Jan and get more information about it.
Yeah, I'd be happy to.
So Mike, you're from Sandia, one of the two labs that I think most people in the room, as we were talking, the clicker question finally came up, and the question was which state has two of the largest national labs, and everyone more or less I think nailed it. And so we have representatives from those two labs here.
There you go.
Sandia, Mike, you represent sort of two hats, both the national lab hat and private sector from the Lockheed perspective. So talk a little bit about some of the exciting programs and things that you've got going on right now, and how that sort of carries through with what we heard from Jan and from Joe.
Sure, great. And one thing too is we're interested, even though we're a national lab, we're mostly interested in the careers and building our workforce and the STEM workforce. We're also looking at STEM literacy. We want to have a STEM literate society because we have so many huge issues that we're faced with, energy, global climate change, and things like that. We better make sure we have smart voters and decision makers out there. And the other thing is, like we alluded to earlier, is the teachers. So that's part of ours. And then just going through part of our 3 R's that everybody talks about now: rigor, relevance, relationships. We really are stressing the relevance issue. And just like you indicated with MC Squared and the Metro, we're really big on that. And I'll come back to that with a specific project. But we're also into 4 more R's, and that's respect. To make sure we're dialoguing we want it to be respected by the education community. We want to demonstrate that we respect the education community for what they do, et cetera. Recognition, I'll come back to that. And then responsible corporate citizenship, as you mentioned, the Lockheed Martin hat and the Sandia hat, and also responsiveness to needs. And that's a challenge because there's so many needs out there. How do we prioritize and respond in the right areas? But as I look through some of the things that we're really working on, our 3 action items are kind of engaged. So we engage in programs like this. We engage in organizations that are involved in it. Just for Bob's standpoint, engage in Project 2012 for New Mexico, et cetera. Many things like that we engage in, but also engaging in disruptive education things, because the system, as the gentleman from Blackboard indicated, 1895, I think, we set up the educational system, and it needs change. It needs big change. And we want everybody to be part of that change, because we can't be the change agents without having everybody engaged. But some specific projects too. One thing we really like is our National Board Certified Teachers. We're paying half the amount of money. If you're a STEM teacher and you want to be nationally board certified, the state has a way to pay for half. We'll pay for the other half. And that's a very important thing. And again, AP training for teachers and things like that are great. SACE, Bruce McClure might be out there somewhere, developed a program with UNM Arts and Sciences where we have developed professional development that a lot of our middle school teachers who really didn't take the right curriculum to be highly qualified in middle school, we have ways to help do that in very short periods of time. They can do it all in one summer if they're that gung-ho. If not, they can do it over a couple of years, et cetera. Our volunteers in the classroom is so important. I met a couple of teachers today. They don't know about our volunteers that we have available. So just that's another issue that we need to communicate what we do. And the other thing is communicating the excitement of engineering. Most kids, when we talk to them, an engineer, what? They work on a train? I mean, they really don't know all the different things engineers, scientists, mathematicians do, and we can't find a way to communicate some of the passion. The challenges this country is faced with are phenomenal. I alluded to some of them earlier, but how do we really step up and get kids engaged? One thing, there was a study done recently at Harvard, or I'm sorry, it was a few years ago, and they showed that only 35% of college students think that the emphasis that goes into being a scientist or engineer, the discipline, the work, only 35% thought it was worthwhile. Well, we got some education to do on that, too. Another thing, too, that we're really excited about is new tech schools. And we decided that we want to invest in a project-based learning school here in Albuquerque as the trial, because